Orson Welles had one of the most turbulent careers in Hollywood history. As an actor, he made a name for himself on the radio and made an adaptation of H.G. Wells's War of the Worlds that was so convincing some thought an alien invasion was truly happening. He also starred in films such as Carol Reed's 1949 masterpiece The Third Man, and a number of Shakespeare adaptations such as Othello, Macbeth, and Chimes at Midnight. But his final acting job was the voice of Unicron, the planet-eating robot from Transformers the movie. His directing career was equally as varied, with his directorial debut, Citizen Kane, which he released in 1941, being voted the best film ever made by institutions like the British Film Institute, the American Film Institute, and the Guardian newspaper. The Other Side of the Wind, which Welles began filming in 1970, remained an underfunded and incomplete project until his death in 1985. Although a documentary of sorts, featuring much of the footage, was released on Netflix in 2018, which credited Orson Welles as the director. Touch of Evil is a film that encapsulates the passion Welles had for filmmaking, his undeniable talent, and his tendency to be at odds with the studio heads who were ultimately in charge. Originally hired as an actor, Welles ended up as director as well on the project, due to the insistence of the film star Charlton Heston, who was just 34 years old at the time, but had already starred in The Ten Commandments, which was the highest grossing film of 1956. Touch of Evil is set on the Mexico and US border, and begins with a car exploding, which kills 2 people. Due to the location, the crime is then investigated by a prosecutor from Mexico, Miguel Vargas, played by Charlton Heston, and an American police captain, Hank Quinlan, who is portrayed by Orson Welles. The two have very different moral codes, and suspicion and paranoia run through the film. The film is famous for its opening, which is one long tracking shot that is not only a technical achievement but integral to the plot. Welles also relied on deep shadows, close-up shots, handheld cameras, and tilted angles to give the film an otherworldly feel that adds to the confusion of all of the characters. Although the film was finished on time and on budget, Universal Studios made substantial changes, including re-editing the film and even reshooting some footage. Orson Welles famously wrote to the studio protesting these changes and complaining that the project was no longer his own. The memo he sent was 58 pages long. Decades after its release, and years after Welles's death, a filmmaker called Walter Murch recovered original footage and pored over Welles's memo and released a version he felt was truer to the original vision in 1998. But no matter what version you can get your hands on, the film is a great example of Orson Welles' filmmaking spirit.